So Season 2 Reloaded is here, and there's a bit more than meets the eye when it comes to things like content, but also a lot of things like balancing passes. So today, we're running down everything you need to know as we jump into Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone Season 2 Reloaded and everything the update changed. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below, and do me a huge favor, hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video, you enjoy the coverage, and if you guys would like to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 3, and honestly, a ton of FPS game coverage here, not limited to just Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone. We had a lot of cool stuff upcoming. Hit that subscribe button so you make sure you're here for all of it. But anyways, let's jump into it because there's a lot to talk about with this update. So first and foremost, let's start out with the Modern Warfare 3 side of things here. The sort of recap stuff that we already knew about, just for the sake of mentioning everything, but we're just going to breeze past all these. We have the new weapons of the SOA Subverter as a weekly challenge reward, the Soul Render as a Battle Pass sector reward. The maps, we have Das House Remastered and Airborne and Skid Row coming later on. We have new modes of Bounty and Juggermosh coming throughout the season. The new aftermarket parts include the Holger 556 Jack Backsaw Kit, the Bass B Jack Outlaw 277 kit, and we'll have the new events of the Dune Rule of Fate live now, the Warhammer 40k for the Emperor event upcoming, and the Vortex Decay's Realm to wrap up Season 2 in a couple of weeks. But okay, that's a lot. Let's take a look at some other changes though, with other content and balancing passes for Modern Warfare 3, because there's still a lot there too. One of the first things is something that's across both Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone, the new crosshair transition fixes. This is something that is just building upon what we saw with the Season 2 launch updates for the crosshairs and how everything worked like that. But it says, upon aiming down sight, the crosshair will now transition directly to the center of the player screen rather than easing into position. Again, continuing the improvements from Season 2's launch. But then we also saw the new features of the added ability to filter attachments by subcategories in the gunsmith. Optics can be filtered into hybrid, 4x thermal, sniper scope 2.5 times, red dot, reflex, and hollow sights. Muzzles can be sorted into breachers, flash hider suppressors, comps, and brakes, and underbarrels can be sorted into hand stops, unmounted weapons, bipods, vertical grips, and angled grips. It also added the ability to track up to 5 challenges to view outside the challenge menu. Track challenges can appear in the in-game pause menu and lobby, and added a mark all red button in the social notification center. So having recorded this before the update's actually playable and the changes are live here at this, I'm very excited if that challenge tracking thing is something that actually does apply how I'm thinking it will. That can be huge and very beneficial for things like camo challenges, if it again applies to that, but that's just something that I'm really happy to see, again, if I'm understanding that properly. Anyways, some map changes. We saw some stuff in regards to minor details, but the one that really stood out to me was Shipment. It's now strangely being entirely replaced by Shipmas, the Christmas variation, that snow-covered variation from Season 1 of Shipment. So it's still the same layout and everything, but it's just thematically different. Now we're getting into spring and summer here at this. Why not throw a snow-covered Shipment map into the rotation here at this as the permanent selection? Anyways, kind of jokes aside, it is cool to see it thematically changed, but I honestly wasn't expecting them to replace the standard Shipment. Feels like it could have done well as the sort of one-off that comes up in the rotation every so often, that both are in that rotation, so you have the opportunity to play both rather than just replacing one. But anyways, that's something to consider. Balancing, we have a lot of weapon balancing up on deck here, so let's jump into it. On screen, you'll see all the specific details, but just to sort of save some time here, not list off every detail, we're going to end up sort of just talking about these in generalities. Again, on screen, you'll see highlighted in red or green. That is denoting bad, a nerf, or a buff, green, good. And then the yellows you'll see on screen are just some things that are like, okay, that's kind of a neutral change, doesn't really change the weapon too much. But anyways, the BP-50 got an overall nerf here with buffs or improvements to the vertical recoil and recoil gun kick benefits on the 4-bearer heavy stock, but overall the BP-50 took a pretty substantial nerf here in regards to it on paper. So that's something that it was a sort of golden child weapon coming out of everything, and it was getting a lot of love, but they ended up drawing it back a little bit. The SVA saw overall buffs where a decrease to the sprint to fire and aim down sight times, making it a bit better in handling. The Bass B saw an overall nerf as well, where it saw a decrease to the maximum damage, the near to medium damage, and maximum damage ranges, making it a 4-shot kill to the torso and above within that near to medium damage range. The Sidewinder saw overall buffs and improvements here to it, where it decreased the recoil intensity, along with a few other things. The MTZ 762 had a mixed bag here at this, where it decreased the horizontal recoil, nice to see, but also also increase the vertical recoil. And then also incompatible underbarrel attachments can no longer be equipped. So again, one of those things that doesn't really affect the weapon too much, but more so is just fixing something there that was problematic. The Ram 9 SMG, nothing was done at the base of the weapon, but all three attachments that were adjusted saw buffs and benefits here added to it. The AMR 9, again, the Jacket and double barrel, this again being one of those ones that's just like, it kind of alters the weapon, but not anything that's too crazy or like detrimental or beneficial, but the bullets on the Jacket and double barrel now fire vertically instead of in a randomized spread. The WSP 9 saw overall buffs here and made it a little bit better, as did the Rival 9 with the Jack Headhunter carbine conversion. The PDSW just simply fixed some of the alignments of the default iron sight optic, and the Lockwood sub saw buffs across the board as well. The shotguns of the Lockwood 680, damage pellet count now remains at 6 regardless of the ammo capacity, so again, that's one of those things that alters the weapon but may not be detrimental or beneficial. The LMGs, the Pull 'em Yacht, had an increase to the aim down sight idle sway, so whenever you aim down sight and you're simply watching that go, it's going to be more powerful, so a nerf there. And then the Jack Annihilator bullpup saw a decrease to that bullet velocity. The Bruin MK9 here got a ton of love. Interested to jump in here and check this out in Modern Warfare 3 and both Warzone, because it did also have the same things reciprocated over there, so excited to see where that now falls in the updated air quote meta. The XRK Stalker and the Cat AMR snipers both saw buffs to the aim down sight speed, while the SPX 80 saw a nerf to it slightly. The handgun of the Core 45 had an increase to the bullet velocity on the conversion kit, and then the Renetti as well as 9mm Demon from Modern Warfare 2 just had some, again, adjustments that don't really hurt or benefit the weapon too much, just fixes to underlying issues. And finally, the Stormender saw EMP effects now properly applying to enemies in free-for-all modes. Again, one of those things that is a problem but doesn't change the weapon at its base. Beyond that, in terms of multiplayer content, bug fixes, the top 250 rank camo will now preview as animated. Apparently it was meant to be animated, but we didn't actually see that ever happen with the Season 2 launch. Then zombies, that's what we can talk about next, because we actually have a little bit more than what we knew of. The content we already knew was coming with Season 2 Reloaded was that new story mission, the new schematics of the Mags of Holding, Bloodburner Key, and the VR11 Wonder Weapon, and that new Warlord of Carries. But a new unannounced feature is that containment level, that DMZ exfil streak that was leaked a while ago. That's finally coming to the game, so that's going to be nice for those grinding camos or something similar. Maybe if you are somebody that's trying to do all your missions and everything like that, it'll become very beneficial and something that does help out tremendously, I think, as you progress through it. So it says you can complete contracts and successfully exfil from each match to increase your containment level up to 100 across 10 tiers. So seemingly like you're going to have to do upwards of 100 exfils, so that's a bit excessive, but there is one nice part. We'll kind of offset that here, we'll talk about in a second. But each tier, of course, increases your rewards as your containment level increases. So tier 1, you'll start with 500 essence. Tier 2, you'll start with 5 armor plates. Tier 3, you'll start with 1000 essence. Tier 4 is 30% off a discount of Perca-Cola machine costs. Tier 5 is starting with 1500 essence. Tier 6 is 30% bonus on contract essence. Tier 7 is starting with 2500 essence. Tier 8 is a 50% off the discount of the mystery box cost. Tier 9 is starting with 5000 essence, so you can pack a punch a weapon right away. And then tier 10 is a 20% off discount at the pack a punch machine. So again, it seems like it's going to take a little while here to end up going through all of those, but the nice part is the players who are unable to successfully exfil, whether you're knocked down or you die or whatever the case, or it's probably the more likely case is that if your game crashes, you'll only be knocked down a single tier. So you're not going to lose everything, especially if that's the case where you have to get like 100 exfils. That's definitely nice here with that. So you're not going to lose a ton of progress, but it is something that will set you back just a little bit. Now, jumping over to the Warzone side of things, let's start with the same here. Let's start with the stuff we already know about as a quick recap. We have the new research vessel of the mobile POI in Fortune's Keep, the new personal decontamination station, that PDS that will give you a sort of bubble of not allowing the gas in your personal vicinity. That'll last for 15 seconds or until it's destroyed. Half of that time, though, in the final 2 zones. And the new bunker buster kill streak for Fortune's Keep, which can blast through up to 3 floors, and that gas radial damage will last 25 seconds, which to me is pretty excessive. But other things to note, Vondel Battle Royale returns. That now coming with a new max player count of 72 and that single life mechanics you'll see in standard Battle Royale. That also has a new Champions Quest nuke challenge coming along with it, which applies, which is pretty cool. Uncertain if those rewards are new just yet. Haven't seen any mention of that. But also speaking of Champions Quest, victories on both maps, standard Battle Royale in Urzikstan and Vondel, now count towards that overall total. So you don't need 5 in Vondel and 5 in Urzikstan. It's just 5 wins in general, or that 30 on the season to end up activating completing that contract. So that's pretty cool. Quality of life items, we now have pre-match lobby loadouts, which will instantly swap. You don't need to wait to respawn. There are looting improvements to significantly improve the top and bottom shelf auto looting. The backpack auto refill is going to be coming here with this update, where field upgrades, kill streaks, tacticals, and lethal equipment will now auto equip if identical items are found, and if not, the next closest non-identical item will equip. The redeploy packs will now have a flare with it, where if you die and you have one of those, instead of just coming back and nobody's alerted of that presence, there is going to be a flare that comes off your body that lets the enemy that did kill you know, hey, they're coming back. Whether they land here or not, who knows. We'll also see the changes to the minimap and vehicles in particular, where it increases the distance at which enemy vehicles appear on the minimap by 10 meters. The most wanted contract in Resurgence game modes are now 3 minutes instead of 4. There's a final elimination kill cam where that's been added to showcase the final elimination of matches across most modes, excluding lockdown and plunder though. And Resurgence combat record stats are now tracking. They were tracking since Resurgence has been available with this new sort of wipe of Warzone since season 1 launched, but it wasn't something that was accessible. So your stuff should be, based off prior discussions with developers, it should be something that tracks from the beginning here, but it's just now accessible finally. We also saw audio improvements where it boosted the ascender distance by 16 feet. It boosted the parachute distance audio to 100 feet. The overall volume of reviving teammates has been slightly increased with a new unique sound that's been added for reviving players so that it's significantly more noticeable to nearby players. Something that was there in Warzone 1 and to me at least was inexplicably removed for Warzone 2. So nice to have that back and getting that audio cue that someone did get up that you may have knocked. And also reviving a teammate using a medic vest will also have a unique audio cue that plays within a small radius near that. Balancing, of course, we have a ton of things to talk about with weaponry. A lot of the stuff you actually might see some crossover from what we talked about with Modern Warfare 3, so we'll try and breeze through this. Again, same rules apply. We'll talk about buffs, nerfs, you name it. Starting out with the MCW, the assault rifles, we saw buffs to this slightly. It doesn't seem to be anything that's going to be a massive increase here that may make it the sort of top dominating meta. The Holger 5.56 saw a buff with a couple of things that were just added on the base. We now have a new near to mid damage and a new near to mid damage range. Those new variables in the equation, so again, not sort of benefiting or hurting the weapon. The BP-50 again had those nerfs across the board almost, as we saw with Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. The SVA saw those handling buffs brought across to Warzone as well, and the Ram 7 also saw a decrease to the max damage range, so a nerf there. The battle rifles, the MTZ-762 got hit pretty hard, again with that Jack Heretic carbine kit, also though having a slight silver lining where it decreased the horizontal recoil, but it also ended up increasing the vertical recoil, so a trade-off there that might not be too beneficial to the standard player. The Sidewinder saw buffs across the board as well. The SMGs, the Jack Etten double barrel, that vertical column firing rather than randomized, is applied as well. The Ram 9 saw all three of those attachments, the Speedway V5, light barrel, and suppressed barrel, also having those benefits transfer over from Modern Warfare 3 MP to Warzone. The WSP9 saw buffs across the board as well, as did the Jack Headhunter carbine kit for the Rival 9. The LMGs, again, very curious to see how this is going to play out in the sort of meta for how everything works within Warzone and the balancing there. But the Bruin, again, all that love that we saw in Modern Warfare 3 is transferred over to Warzone as well, making it seemingly on paper much better candidate than it was just yesterday before this update went out. The Pulamyot 762 again saw those nerfs, which may knock it down enough of a peg that it might not necessarily be usable. It wasn't necessarily in the top equation as much lately, but knocking it down a little further. And those sniper rifle changes of the XRK Stalker and Cat AMR9 having a quicker ADS time and the SPX 80 having a slower ADS time have been applied as well. The Renetti Core 45 and Tier also saw some buffs across the board as well, and that is about it for the weapon balancing. Additional items to note though in regards to balancing, there are a couple of other things in regards to equipment. Throwing knives received a nerf down from 175 from 200, so you can no longer one-shot players with a throwing knife unless it's to the head. Frag grenades were also nerfed, despite for some reason they were buffed with the launch of Season 2. They were already good, and then Season 2 just made them like mini nukes in your hands. Stun grenades should now be fixed where movement is also impaired rather than just the horizontal look effect. That was a bug that was again out of the Season 2 update a couple of weeks ago. But other than that, we got to look at our playlist for the remainder of Warzone and Season 2 here, and honestly, they might be some of the worst ones we've seen so far. So having a lot of fun, not jumping into a lot of those, but yeah. Anyways, that is Season 2 Reloaded in a nutshell and everything that you need to know about everything that changed. So that said, that is what we're going to call it. But before we do, make sure to check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage for what I firmly believe are the best blue light glasses on the market. I've worked with these guys for nearly 3 years now. Cannot recommend them enough. They're the most lightweight, comfortable, and durable frames out there as far as I've used, and I definitely think they've helped my daily productivity. Full transparency, yes, they are a bit more of an investment, but I think that your vision is absolutely worth investing into, especially if you're like me, you look at a monitor, phone, or you're gaming for a good chunk of the day. So if you guys would like to learn more, at the very least, I'd recommend checking out their website, where they can better break down the science and all the specifics way better than I could. But what I'd personally say is that I'd highly recommend this. So if you guys would like to learn more, check the link in the description below. And if you'd like to pick something up for yourself, use code Espresso to get 10% off your entire order. But that said, that's what we're going to call it. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of Season 2 Reloaded in a nutshell right now? At a glance, of course, as of this video going live, the update will be playable and everything, so you probably have more insight into how it actually functions rather than myself recording this a little bit earlier. But anyways, let me know your thoughts. Drop a like if you guys enjoyed, and subscribe for more content for Modern Warfare 3, Warzone, but also other games like Gray Zone Warfare. We're going to be covering some stuff with Delta Force coming up soon. All kinds of other stuff. Very excited to jump back into other FPS content with you. So hit that subscribe button if you'd like to join the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.